this computer. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do today. Let's go to Maya. All right, I'm going to tap my screen right here. So we're gonna, this is our animated guy. We're gonna create a very simple animation setups real quick after we're done rendering our character in place. And the reason why we want to animate our character in place is so that we can have a turntable. We're gonna use a what's called a physical sky. And this physical sky, it comes in with Arnold. Arnold is now the default render engine for Maya. Okay, they got rid of Mental Ray, thank God, because it was garbage. And now we're using Arnold, which I've always loved. When I heard that they got Arnold, I thought it was a joke at first. I was telling my friends, you know, don't tease me. And then when I saw it, I was like, wow, we're super lucky. I got trained with Mental Ray, and then I went to school to learn RenderMan, which is the Pixar render engine. And when Arnold came out, I saw Arnold. I was 15 years ago. It was created by a Spanish programmer, and I always thought it was really, really cool. And then Maya announced that they got Mental Ray, so I was like, yeah, awesome. Mental Ray always was late with the upgrades. They really didn't care about Max. It was a disaster. And eventually, V-Ray came out. I also learned how to render with V-Ray. And to be honest with you guys, I like the Arnold render engine a lot. It's one of my favorite render engines. So when it was announced that Autodesk was gonna purchase Arnold, I thought they made the best decision ever. That's why I really liked Autodesk. Then I'll make remind me, guys. I have to make an announcement about Autodesk. It's not gonna affect you guys at all, but it's they're changing things around. Anyway, so I'm gonna show you guys a couple of very simple setups where you guys don't have to play too much around with lighting. In the spring, all of the 3D classes at Fullerton College are going to be renamed. We're going to have new prefixes. All the 3D classes, instead of Dart, there will be VFX. And we're going to put them in the right order, like I've been wanting to do for the past 3 years. And we're going to move all the animations to Anim. We're going to use all the entertainment arts to ENT for entertainment. And all of the product design, 3D printing, in fabrication, those will be under PROD, which is for product. And all of the narrative design classes will be under NART. And we're only going to keep 4 Dart classes, and those will be the prerequisite classes. For all of the other classes, you will have to take one of the either Dart 100, Dart 101, Dart 102, or Dart 103, depending what direction you guys are going. Noah, when it comes to Blender renderers, which do you like best? What do you mean by Blender renderers, Noah? I'm kind of confused. Eevee or Cycles? If you have any preference, that is. Render engines for Blender. Okay, so Blender is open source 3D package. There's one called Redshift, the color red and shift, which is really, really, really good. I think you have to pay for it. I haven't seen the other two that you're talking about, so I cannot give my opinion on those. But I've seen stuff that came out of Blender using the Redshift render engine. It's quite amazing. Yeah, because I haven't heard of those, which is kind of weird. And I tend to keep up with third-party render engines, and I haven't heard of those. So I'll look into those now, and then I'll shoot you an email about which ones would be better. Awesome. Okay, so let's quickly get started because there's a lot of information, but I want to make sure that you guys also know that after the semester's over, I'll have more time to work on more YouTube videos. I'm going to create a series for UVs with a new UV toolkit. I will be 3 videos to replace the 5 videos that I have, the older way of doing UV. So I'm going to redo those for me, for X, for Brian, for the adjuncts. Then I'm going to do a series on rendering with Arnold. I'm going to do a couple of videos of using very simple setups from the beginning. And then I'll have a video fully dedicated to render settings, how to make your renders really, really fast and very efficient. I'll give you guys a couple of ideas of what we're going to cover by going through all of the some of the presets. Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to do these guys right here. Okay, and then I'm going to do a series on the Toon Shader, the how to do a render where you have your texture, right? And this is not really texture because these are just shaders, right? But we'll have one where we can paint the character, and then then you'll do another render with a gray shader, right? And then you'll do another render with a wireframe, and then you can superimpose on them. So you can have a turnaround or a walk cycle where you can see the character going from textures to the gray shader to a wireframe, so people can see what your wireframes look like and everything. Those videos, it'll be like, I think it'll be just one video, even though there's another cool thing that I want to do with Toon Shaders. Will be a second video, more advanced technique to Toon Shade very simple buildings to create backgrounds for comic book artists, illustrators, and narrative artists for sequential arts. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out how to make these. But before we get here, I want to talk about where we left off last week, and I want to show you guys how to animate your character into place. I completely forgot, and I apologize that I did not show you guys before the class ended. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this scene right here, and we'll do this from scratch. That's how easy this is to do. Okay, it's beyond easy. Okay, so I'm going to save this real quick. All right, show you guys how to set up this workspace. You guys know how to do workspaces, so but I'll show you guys why we want to use these tools and why you want to have these guys around here. Okay, so I'm just going to go and open where we left off last week. So let me go and set my project. So I need to move the chat because it's right on top of it. Should we go along with you? Up to you, Noah. If you want to go along with me, I may go a little bit fast, but remember, Noah, this is going to be recorded, and after it's recorded, I will upload it into YouTube and send you guys the video. So if you want to just, get a cold soda and then, because you're underage, and then just kick back and just watch this and just, enjoy it. Okay, so let me go to my project. I'm going to set it, but knowing you, Noah, you probably can keep up with me. So if you want to do that, go for it. Okay, so I'm going to set my walk cycle, and then I'm going to go to open. All right, and we left off right here, number 3. Okay, so I'm going to go to continue, and I'm going to go back to my, let me get out of this workspace, and I'm going to go to my animation workspace. Because I didn't do this in this computer, my workspace may look different, okay? So this is where we are. You're on a Mac rack, not a PC. Okay, so here's our walk cycle. So if I hit play, we have our character, right? And how did I create this character walking into place? If you guys see the grid, notice that he's walking into place. It is extremely beyond easy to do. Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So I'm going to go to show, and I'm going to bring up my NURBS curves. The trick is in the forward movement of your torso. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, from last week, our translate in Z direction is a constant movement, okay? We go at frame 1, we're at 0, and at frame 25, we're gonna be at 19.394, okay? So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna select this guy right here. You guys can see exactly what we're gonna do. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select everything right here on the main controller, and I'm gonna break connections. This is how you got rid of all the keys, okay? And if I hit play, you will notice that our guy is going to leave town, right? Because I only have 25 frames, it's going to go from this position right here to right here, and then it's going to start back to frame number 1. But what I want this animation to happen in the same place. So here's the trick. You guys already saw it. You're going to find your translate on Z. You're going to copy the last number, which is the movement in 25 frames was 19.394 centimeters. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go to my main controller. And what I want my main controller to do is I want it to go backwards while this character moves forward. And then after 25 frames, right, I'm going to stop the animation. We're going to do our infinite loops, and then the character is going to go back to the beginning. So there's going to be a constant loop where it's going to look like your character is moving in the same place, okay? All right. So I'm going to select my main controller. Let me go to a double pane. Perfect. and let's go to right view. Fantastic. Okay. Oof, that's what happens when you're working on a PC the whole day. I'm gonna put this guy right here. And if I hit play, right, we get the guy walking away and then boom, goes back. But you guys notice the main controller is in the same place. So I'm gonna go to frame 1. I'm gonna select my main controller. And remember guys, the main controller, you can do a bunch of stuff. You can move this guy up. You can rotate it so the character starts animating and it starts rotating, right? Here's a little hint of what we're gonna do for the turntable, right? And you can rotate, translate and rotate, but you cannot scale it. That was hidden. Okay, and the visibility has been locked. So what I want to do is I'm going to zero this transformation right here. What I want to do is I want to give it the same movement that this guy is going forward. I want to give it to this one going backwards. So I'm going to select my main controller, and I'm going to go to translate on the Z direction. So translate Z. I'm going to go right mouse button, key selected. Then I'm going to go to frame 25, and I'm going to go right mouse button, key selected. So as you guys can see right here, all right, the beginning is at 0, and then at the end, we're still at 0. I want to change this key value to our 19. So I'm going to go paste 19.394. Now, if I hit enter, right, you will notice that again, we have let me show you guys this real quick. Computer, there we go. You guys will notice that we have, remember, to scale up or scale left to right your graph, okay, is going to be Shift and Alt. So Alt is your zoom, but when you add Shift, you can squeeze your view or you can stretch your view, okay? It's not changing the scale, it's just squeezing the view. All right, perfect. So first thing that we need to do, remember, ladies and gentlemen, we want a linear movement. We are going to go to our tangents right here, okay, right below the menu, and we're going to select linear. So now we have a constant movement, but we want to move backwards. So all we got to do is select this key right here and then type in negative at the beginning, hit enter. And now when I hit play, notice that you're going to notice that this character is going to move forward, but this main controller is going to move backwards at the same speed in opposite directions. So here we go. And there you have it. Okay, so as you guys can see right here, we have a character walking in place. I'm going to go to show and I'm going to hide my NURBS curves that we can then add a turnaround table, and your character walk cycle, you guys can put it in your demo reel as a turnaround. So people can look at your animation from all points of view. Super cool if you ask me. All right, fantastic. So I'm going to stop and we're going to move this forward. Okay, so this is our walk in place setup. And by the way, this works in all the views. So I'm going to, I wish that Apple and Windows would have a fight, work it out once and for all, right? And then go, okay, let's agree to switch those two keys, the command for the control, and then put them in the same place, because it would be a better place and it will be a better world, I believe. Okay, and there you have it. Then you can move this guy, right? You can look at it from the top, from the bottom, right? And you guys want to do, and remember we're playing forward, so if we go backwards, right? Moonwalk like nobody. Okay, all right. So there you have it. Okay, so that is a continuous walk in place. And remember, because this is a repeating animation, we go from frame 1 to frame 25. Remember, frame 1 and frame 25 are the same. So if you guys do this animation, be careful, because then you're going to have a loop animation with an extra key. So to fix that is very easy. You want frame 1 to be at frame 1, and then when the animation starts again, go from frame 24 to frame 1. So in your range slider, you're going to make your animation visibility to 24. And now we're going to go from frame 1 to frame 24. And then when it loops back, it's going to go to frame 1. So you're going to have a correct loop cycle. You won't have that extra, no worries, look, I'm recording this, okay? And this will be recorded after the meeting, you guys are going to download this video from YouTube and just watch what I'm doing, okay? So what we're going to cover today, Luke, is going to be, oh, good, my God, you didn't miss. Okay, cool. So we're going to, so this is how you did the walk cycle. Again, extremely, extremely easy, okay? Right? When I repeat it one more time, just to show you guys how easy this is. Right? You're going to figure out your forward movement, translate Z. You guys see the straight line? Okay, you're going to figure out that at the beginning is 0, and at the end, your walk cycle is at 19.34. So if this guy works forward, you want your main controller that we have not set any keys until today backwards. So what I did, I selected my main controller. I figured out that I wanted to translate on the Z in the opposite direction. So I set a key at frame 1, and I set a key at frame 25. At frame 25, as you guys can see, I pasted that number, 19.394, but on the negative direction. So when the body moves forward, the main controller will move backwards, and that's how you create a continuous walk in place cycle. And if you guys do a render, right? So if I go right mouse button. So with this camera selected, I'm going to create a play blast. I'm going to go anywhere on my timeline, right mouse button, go to the play blast options, and I'm going to select view, deselect show ornaments. Render off screen means that if you have it selected, you can render the play blast and keep working in Maya. I'm going to deselect that. Multi-camera output is designed for when we use a 3D camera. We're not using a 3D camera. So I'm going to select AV Foundation so I can create a movie. For my quality, I'm going to go to H.264. From the window, if I have a specific resolution, so if I go to my resolution gate right here, I have a resolution of 1920 by 1080. I'm going to change that in my render settings. So I'm going to go HD, but I'm going to select 540, and I'm going to reduce my character right here. Perfect. Make it smaller so when he goes to the passing pose, we can see him. I'm going to scrub up to make sure that the character is in frame the whole time. Perfect. Then for the scale, I'm going to go to a scale of 1. Frame padding, there's only 24 frames, so this is the number of digits that we assigned for every single image. So it will be image 1_00001. So I want to only have 2 because we go from frame 1 to frame 24. So 24 has a padding of 2. And I'm going to select save to file. I'm going to select where to save it. So this is going to be in my movies video, and I'm going to select this one right here, and I'm going to name it number 4. Hit save, and now we're ready to create a play blast. And notice that it goes frame by frame, and as soon as the play blast is ready, this is what we have right here. Because I have selected from window, we get this rectangular window. So if we go back to Maya, I'm going to do another play blast options, and this time instead of from window, I'm going to select from render settings. So that renders our play blast at 960 by 540. I'm going to click on play blast. And now you will notice that we have the window and then we have our render settings. So I'm going to hit play, and to play it on a continuous loop, I'm going to go Control L on a PC, Command L on a Mac. And there you have it. Next, we're going to talk about two very simple rendering techniques for your animation. Okay, you guys want to put this on a demo reel, and usually for the demo reels, they just want to see a simple walk cycle like this, right, with the rig, and then you guys can do another render without the rig and then superimpose it. But to stand out from the crowd, you may want to use a lighting setup. Okay, go from a play blast like this to a lighting from the rig, without the rig, and then go into a lit version. And then if you want to, you can do a turnaround. We can add a turnaround, okay? So let's talk about rendering with Arnold. Arnold comes in Maya. Let me move this guy down here. And I'm going to switch my workspace to the rendering standard, okay? And I'm gonna tell you guys what you wanna get rid of, what you can use and all that stuff. So for some reason, because I'm using my outliner, there are two outliners. I'm gonna get rid of this outliner right here. I'm gonna bring up my outliner, but I'm gonna put it to the left of the render setup. The render setup is gonna be good for later on. Once you guys learn, wanna learn more more tutorials on Arnold, I will have one on the render setup. Render setup is your layer rendering in Arnold. You can render in different layers, and then you can add specific textures to each layer. You guys can do, for example, a walk cycle with the texture. Let's say that this was hand painted, right? You can do a walk cycle with the textures and with a light, and then you can create a new layer that it's the your character with the gray shader, right? And then you can do another one with the ambient occlusion, okay, which is our little body right here. It creates shadows for our characters and all that jazz. And then you can do another one with a toon shader. So you can have multiple renders with multiple shaders in each render, okay? Each layer. So that's the render setup. I'll create a whole video on how to use it. We'll really take it apart and see what cool stuff we can do with it. We don't need the script editor when it comes to rendering. This was designed for people that are more into script writing for all that stuff. And for the attribute spreadsheet, I don't use it anymore. We used to use it in the past so that we can control multiple lights at the same time. For the Arnold render, sorry guys, I need to move this guy right here. You guys don't see it. It's the Zoom UI. Okay, and I'm keeping an eye. Noah, can you play Blast in our? Yeah, okay. So I already answered that answer, and I'll show you how to do that with an image sequence. Okay, I'm going to go to UV editor, and we're going to get rid of the UV editor because rendering, your character should already have UVs, so you don't need that. So we're going to use the channel box to select our stuff, our layers, our render settings, very, very important, and the attribute editor, okay? So the other thing that we want to bring in is Arnold's light controllers. So you guys look at the top of the UI in the middle where all the rendering tools are, right? The render setting is this guy right here. These guys are for render now. The render, sorry, this is for the display the rendering image. This is to do a render, okay? And this is IPR, okay? Which is an image preview render. And I'll show you guys the Arnold one. And this is our render setting. So we have these guys right here. This is our hypershape. And then this is the render setup, which is this guy right here. And then to the right, this is the light editor. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the light editor. The light editor is made out of two parts, the light editor and the property editor, which is almost like an attribute editor for whatever lights you guys have here. Cool. Somebody has a question? I heard somebody on the mic. All right, if you guys have, oh, it's John.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Okay, I thought you had a question. All right, cool. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to undock the property editor, and I'm going to dock it not to the side of the light editor. I'm going to dock it with the light editor, so there I can go from here to here. Because once this is mostly to select the lights. I'm going to select the light, and then I'm going to go here. So I'd rather do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these guys at the bottom, but I'm going to get rid of the command line and the help line. I don't need those. Space bar, right quadrant. Let's get rid of the help line and let's get rid of the command line. Okay. We are going to need the timeline and the range slider, of course. And I'm going to dock these two guys below this camera right here. We're not ready yet because we need to create a render cam. Okay. I'm going to put it right there until you get a single blue bar. Perfect. Okay, and you guys can push this guy down. It's kind of mine if it's on. Go like this. Just bring it down because then we can move it up and everything. Okay, and then the timeline, you can push the timeline down. Don't worry about that. The letters read weird. Just click these guys right here, and then it'll get fixed. Okay, I like this setup right here. I want to have my channel box on the top. I want to have my outliner, my render setup right here, right? And the render setup, the property editor for the render setup is once you guys create a layer, a render layer to render, right? One layer could be color, texture, fully lit, everything. Another one could be just a wireframe. Then here you go to fix the contents of those layers. That's why you want to have these two guys right here. In channel box, render settings and attributes. And what I'm going to do is, because I started with my render standard, I'm going to go save the current workspace. Okay. So I'm going to call this one rendering standard, and then I'm going to put my name. But because I have one, I'm going to call this one delete me. All right. Okay, I'm going to go past this so I can finish the lecture fast, and so you guys can get to it. All right. So so this one I'll delete it. I'm going to go back to mine, which is it's pretty much the same setup as you guys can see. And don't worry about this. That is because I have two cameras. Okay. So before we can do this, anytime you guys render, I'm trying to move the, there we go, right there. Never render out of any views unless you need to do a side view, a front view, a perspective view. You want to create a camera called the render cam. And the render cam is the camera that everybody, no matter if you're in the video game industry, TV, movie, commercials, when people see in the outliner a camera called render cam, capital R, capital C, they're going to know that's the camera that I have to look through. So we're going to create a perspective. We're going to call it the render cam. And it doesn't have to be perspective. It could be anything. Okay, so to create another camera, we can go to create. We can go to cameras and create a new camera. But I like doing it from here. And you guys can do this from any of the other panels. You're going to go to panels, perspective, and we're going to go to new. All right, here's a new camera. You can double click the name right here and call it render, capital R, cam, all one word. The render cam is a camera that we render, okay? And or you guys can do it right here under the shape. So here is our render cam. Let me move the chat to the left. I spend most of the time moving the chat, the Zoom chat left and right. Okay, so here's our little guy right here. And let's go ahead and figure out a format that we render our animation. In the standard, the current standard, unless something new happens within the next few years, is always going to be HD. So how do you bring up an HD format? So to the right of our grid, we have our film gate, okay? And notice that it creates this mask right here. This is called the gate. So in an old traditional camera, this is the part of where the light would go through and burn into the film, okay? And that's why they call it the film gate. But we're not going to use film. You use the film gate when you're working with 3D and you have to match the 3D to a live action plate. And then your supervisor will tell you, hey, Frank, we're using a 16.9, a 2 to 35 to 1, and then you'll type it in here, okay? But we're going to use a resolution gate. So when I click on the resolution gate, now I need to go, the resolution will be right here on the top, and then the camera name will be right here at the bottom. All right, so this is going to be our first foray into the render settings, and this is the second time that I use the word foray this year. Okay, so let's go to render settings, and we need to do a couple of changes. Let's talk first about our file output. If you guys want to do an image, we're going to be using an image. So you guys can have all these images to pick from. Most commonly, people use JPEGs, or they use Photoshop files if you want to have a Photoshop file directly into Photoshop. PNGs are really good. They're very light, and they're not super compressed, and you can bring in transparencies. And we should have, and I don't see it, EXE. I don't see it. Anyways, we're just going to leave the image to whatever your file format of preference is. I like to work with PNGs when it comes to images, all right? And we're going to be doing an image sequence, so I've selected the image sequence that I like. Okay, when we create an animation, then we're going to have to come here for the frame rate, okay? Where do we start from and where do we end and all that stuff. So if I go to image format, and let's go ahead and select QuickTime Movie, right? You'll notice that this opens up, okay? But we're going to leave it to image for now. We're doing an image, and I want you guys to see what the setups are. TIFFs are still really, really good. They're really good quality, super high quality. Okay, so let's go and select PNG. Okay, render cameras. This is where you pick your camera. Okay, so far we went to the type of image, the frame range. This only pops up if you select a movie, then you can get out of the movie. And render camera. So I want to go to my render cam. Okay, I'm telling Arnold, hey, listen, we're going to render with render cam. And then this is where we're going to find our format and our resolution, all that jazz. On the presets, these are your typical movie and television presets. The 320 by 240 and the 640 by 480. This is old television formats. Okay, 1 square and 2 square. I don't know why we have those formats, but c'est la vie. And then the ones we're going to be dealing with are going to be these guys, HD, 540, 720, and 1080. And we're going to start with the 540. You want to always work with the 540 because 540, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the HD formats, you always read the last of the two numbers. You have width by height, and this is the height. So you'll notice that here, HD 540 is actually 960 by 540. Now look what happens when I switch from 540 to 720. My 16 by 9 proportions, okay, are always the same. All three HDs share the same format. That's why you want to work at 540 so the computer goes faster, your play blasts go faster and all that jazz. And when it comes time to rendering, we switch to 1080. Okay, and that's what your demo reel is going to be like. Okay, so let's go to 540 for now. And here you'll see the pixel resolution, the aspect ratio, and all that jazz. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the Maya settings. Now we got to switch on the render using, we have to switch to Arnold Render. And nothing is going to happen other than it's going to change from Maya. We're going to go to Arnold, and then we have these settings right here that we're going to work with. And then these will be the render setups and all that jazz, okay? So you can either do the layers here and then add the contents of the layers, or you can do it right here, okay? But when it comes to rendering with Arnold, we usually come here. And these are samples, okay? And I'll talk a little bit about samples. So just remember that these samples are under Arnold right here. Okay, fantastic. So again, I don't want to go too much into this. I don't want to get you guys like all, you know, loaded with stuff that it's not going to be needed for what we want to do. Because all we want to do is a simple sky dome and a simple, physical sky and a dome sky or sky dome. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pose my character. And remember this area right here, this is the gate. And the overscan is the distance from the gate to your camera. So to make that smaller, right, you select your camera, you go to the attribute editors, and we are going to go to our display options. And this is the button version of these icons right here, okay? So I can display both the film gate and the resolution gate, or just display the film gate, no resolution gate, or turn the gate on and off. The gate is this area right here. So the opacity for the gate is right here, super transparent, 100% opaque. I like to go 0.5, okay? And then the gate color, you guys can select any color that you guys want. But as you guys can see, if you have an opacity, you can see past the gate, okay? All right, so I'm gonna zoom in real quick. Damn it. There we go. So here's my character right here. And remember, my character is just walking in place right now, okay? So this will be a really nice setup right here. Okay, so let's go to set up the camera. To make the overscan, the area around here smaller, closer to the side, because you guys will notice that when we scale this, we're gonna be closer to the sides than to the height and the bottom. It's gonna be right here. So I like to have don't have an overscan of 1 because that's gonna put it right on the edge. So here you can see that the edge of the gate, but here you don't. So you don't know if you're cropping it. I like to put something like a 1.15, okay? All right, something like this. I have more space and it looks awesome, okay? If you guys will go 1.1, yeah, you're getting a little bit close, but this will be fine. All right, so we're gonna compose our shot real quick. Here, this is our field gate, our fielding. So this is a 1 animation field. Okay, and we use this to pretty much center our character, right? You can hit play and you can go, okay, this character is always going to go not past 10, right? And here is going up to 9. So if you want to, you can move this character a little bit higher, right? You use it to compose the shots, right? Turn that off. This right here is what we call our action save. You want your action to happen inside of this square right here. You don't want any of the action to go past, because some TVs that are more square may crop that. And lastly, this is what we call our title save or save title, meaning that if you have text like, you know, Walk Cycle by Frank Guthrie, you want to do it with inside this square right here so that it doesn't get cropped up, all right? So that saves are right here to the right of the fielding. This is the field chart, action save, title save, okay? Title, and then this is your action. Fantastic. So we're gonna compose our shot right here. I'm gonna go to frame 1, all right? But there's other stuff that we have to take in consideration. All right, so let's talk about lighting. I'm gonna show you guys 2 ways of doing this. One, we're gonna use the viewport, okay? We're gonna render right here, and I'm gonna tell you guys why this is awesome, but sometimes it's better to do it directly into Arnold. So as of Maya 2019, we now have the ability to have the Arnold render engine inside of our viewport. By default, we use viewport 2.0. I'm gonna switch it to Arnold, okay? And this little window is gonna pop up right here. This is the Arnold viewport render. It's really, really new, okay? So if I do a render, right, you'll notice that we go black because we don't have any lights. So I could create lights, I could create a floor and all that stuff. We're not gonna do that. Let me explain why. So to get out of this, just go back to viewport 2.0 and then go back to Arnold, okay? And that little thing is gonna pop up. Again, it's doing this render. So under render, okay, I'm going to deselect IPR. RPR is the image preview render. It means that, and I'll show you guys how the IPR works in a few minutes. If you have a light and everything is ready, as soon as you move the camera or you do something to your character or you change the intensity, it's going to re-render from scratch, okay? All right, so here we go. Let me get a glass of water. Sorry guys, I'm not trying to do this rushed. I just want you guys to have this right away so that you guys can start, keep working on your projects, okay? So the 2 announcements that I did early on in the class, number 1, we're not gonna have a final, okay? So look, you did not miss anything. No finals for this class. And I'm going to extend the due date. The due dates are gonna be your bouncing ball project. You guys need to, I will put this on an email at the end of the, once I send you guys the link to this video. You guys are gonna upload your bouncing ball project, okay? And I need the entire project because I wanna make sure that you guys put the video in your source images. And you guys are gonna upload this walk cycle, okay? And also the entire project. So your bouncing ball project and your walk cycle project will be uploaded in your student folder inside of the folder name midterms and finals, okay? And then obviously whatever reference sheets you guys did not submit, and I will send I will send a screen grab of what image reference sheets you guys have missing, create those reference sheets, put them in the folder and all that jazz, okay? All right, so let's continue. What I need to do now, I'm gonna show you guys how to render right here. And we're gonna start with a physical light, and then we'll get out of the viewport render because the viewport render, it's not as fast as the actual Arnold render. And with the Arnold render, you can do a lot of cool stuff. This is mostly for a preview. Okay, so let's talk about the 2 simplest lighting setups. All right, we're gonna start with the physical sky. So anything to do with Arnold, you wanna use Arnold light. So we're gonna go to Arnold, we're gonna go to light, and we are gonna go to our light, and we're gonna go to our physical sky. Okay, we're gonna do a physical sky, and we're gonna do a sky dome, okay? So let's start with our physical sky, boom. And when I create the physical sky, I'm gonna go to perspective, and I'm gonna switch to the perspective camera, and I'm going to zoom out real quick. I wanna show you guys something right here. So let me go to viewport 2.0 so we guys can see this better, okay? And this is your sky dome. I'm gonna hit F, and this physical sky, or the sky dome, sorry guys, I call it the physical sky because I was trained on another software and it was called the physical sky. But the sky dome, right? It's a generic, it's a procedural sky shader that emits light, okay, in a high dynamic range setup, okay? So here is our character, right? There is our render cam. I saw it somewhere here. I'm gonna select the render cam in the outliner. And it's all right, there is our render cam right there, okay? And here's our character. And this black thing right here, when I switch to render in our viewport and I go to Arnold, and I get this little play blast button, I'm now going to click play. All right. And we have a render that took 1 second. And when I move it, you guys are going to see that it's very grainy, and then it renders again. When I move it, if you guys look at the little Arnold viewport render UI, it says rendering. When I let go, it's going to render. Okay, so the physical sky looks awesome. We need a couple of things, okay? First thing that we're going to need is going to be a floor. We want to catch that ground, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to create, let me go to, I'm going to select the sky dome right here. I'm going to rename it, okay? I'm going to rename this one the sky dome light. Okay, and I'm going to put this on a layer. So let's go ahead to a channel box. I'm going to create a new layer with the object. I'm going to click on this icon, create layer with selected object, and I'm going to name this layer. I'm going to make it yellow, and I'm going to name this one the sky dome. So sky dome, so I can turn it on and off. All right, hit save, and I'm going to hide it for now. And let's go to our viewport 2.0, and I'm going to create a bucket, what we call a render bucket. You can do what's called a sync, S-Y-N-C, or you can do what's called a render bucket. I'm going to show you guys both. So let's go and quickly model something real quick. I'm going to model a floor. Hit R for scale. I'm going to scale this guy right here. I want to get rid of all this information. All right, so let's go to 2. I just need a center point in the middle. I'm going to make this like this, and I'm going to rotate it towards my camera. So let's go to our panels, perspective, render cam. Perfect. All right, and what I want to do, I'm going to rotate this guy so that the back is aligned with my camera. Let's bring up our filling, and let's rotate this bad Oscar so that it aligns in one of these guys right there. Perfect. Okay, hide the fielding. I'm going to hit R for scale, and I'm going to scale this guy right here until we don't see it from the sides. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this edge, W, and I'm going to, select these 2 edges. And I'm going to move these guys holding shift, and I'm going to extrude this guy up like so. All right. I'm going to go to my perspective view. And this is what I have so far. Oh, dude, come on, man. All right. So this is what we have right here. So I'm going to make this big. All right, and I'm going to create a sync. A sync is a rounded corner that is used in photography. I don't need this edge in the middle. I'm going to double click on this edge, shift, right mouse button, let's delete this edge. All right, so a sync is a rounded corner, and it creates the illusion of an infinite background. So let's go ahead and bevel this guy. Shift, right mouse button, bevel. All right, and we're not going to do fencing, so leave the chamfer. Let's increase the segments. So we have a rounded corner. I'm going to select all these edges right here, and I'm going to soften these edges. Shift, right mouse button, soften, soften edges. Okay, so that when we render this, it looks nicer. Okay, so let's go to panels, and let's go to perspective, and let's go to our render cam. Perfect. And this is exactly what we want. To deselect this object, just click on the background. So now what I can do, I can even move this guy out of the way and just push him back. Okay. Darn, I wish I had that middle edge. So go to edges, shift, right mouse button, insert edge loop, and I'm going to go to my options. I'm going to go to equal distance multiplier, and I'm going to go to 1. I'm going to split this guy evenly in the middle. Okay. Oh, dude, seriously. I'm going to hit Y. Okay, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Okay, damn it. Okay, select edge, shift right mouse button, insert edge loop, and there, perfect. Q, right? Let's go to object mode. So I want to move this back, but when you guys see that my pivot point, I rotated this object, this is based on the world. So I'm going to hit D to disable the pivot point, and then I'm going to click on this edge right here. Let's put it on that edge right there. Hit D to re-engage the pivot point, and I'm going to move this guy back. right there. And I'm going to make it wider, like so. Perfect. Okay. All right, to deselect this guy, just click on your outliner. All right, and let's go ahead and do a render. So let's go to render, and let's go to the viewport version of Arnold. This little UI will pop up, and now it's doing a render. And because I have the layer off, nothing is seen. Turn the layer for the sky dome again, and then let's go to render, and I'm going to go to update full render. Okay, and there you have it. So we have a shadow. The sync is working, and what we need to do some changes. Okay, so we've created the sky dome. Okay, and we have a sync, a render bucket, ladies and gentlemen. All it is, I'll show you guys how to do this real quick. So this right here is the disk. When you create a disk, I'm going to turn off my IPR because it keeps going. So I'm going to hit stop right here. Okay. So, oh, that's kind of new. So when you stop, it gets out of the render. All right, I'm not gonna do it really, really big. I'm gonna do this small. I'm gonna go to my edges, and I'm gonna double click on this edge around this object. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do one more extrusion with my scale, like this. Hold Shift, and then move it. Shift, and then scale it like this, okay? You want a big gap. And then you're gonna go move, holding Shift. You're going to create the bucket like this. I'm going to go up to here. Perfect. We're going to double click on this edge loop right here. Shift right mouse button bevel. Same thing as before. Give it a bunch of, not too many. I'm going to go 6. And this is your render bucket. So what you do is you make this so big that it goes towards the end. Okay. So this right here, I'm going to type in 150. Perfect. I'm going to put this, and this is called a render bucket. So render bucket. Okay, hopefully I spell bucket correctly. There's usually like 2 T's, an H, and 5 S's. Okay. So, and we're going to name this one yellow because it deals with the lights. And this is going to be my sink. Okay. So name this guy the sink. I believe it's SYNC. I could be wrong. Put it right there. Et voila. Okay, so I can use either my sink or my render bucket, as you guys can see. Okay, so let's do the sink for now. And let's run a render. So when you do something to the render, when you stop it, when you add something new, and the IPR is running, best thing to do is to stop, go to render, and update your full scene, which is Command U on an Apple, Control U on a PC. And when you click on that, it's just going to reset the whole thing, and then you can click on render, and there you have it. Okay, I want to make sure that the IPR is running because I'm going to tweak this light in real time to show you guys the effects. Okay, so this is the extent to the tweaking that I want you guys to do, all right, to the light. I'm going to select the light, and the light is selected in the background. Let me hit Q so I don't scale it by mistake. And we're going to go to our attribute editor. This is the Arnold logo, okay, and we're going to work right here. So a couple of things. You have intensity for the light, that when we increase it, it's going to make the light intense, okay? So do me a favor, guys. Never touch the intensity. Always leave the intensity to 1, okay? The Arnold, excuse me, the Arnold render engine, the RenderMan render engine, the V-Ray render engine, and the Mental Ray render engine, and so is Redshift, are based on camera equipment. To bring in more light into your render and be more efficient, you want to go to your exposure. So I'm going to type in 1, and you guys are going to see a huge change. Okay. So 1 is fine. Let's go to 2, and I'm going to go to 3. See what it looks like. Okay. Perfect. Okay. That's what I want. I may go 2.5. All right. This will work better when we work with our HDRs, with our Sky Dome. Okay. Fantastic. And the render is done. It took 5 seconds, but there's a lot of grain. So let's quickly talk about grain. A grain is what you guys are going to fix to get good renders. Understand that grain is generated by 2 things. The number one culprit is your light. your lights generate the grain. And what we do is we want to fix our samples. Okay, so what I'm going to do, everybody should be comfortable with how to do the render in this viewport right here. Okay, so I'm going to increase the samples for the lights. So again, the grain is generated by the light. This, what you guys see right here, is the light generated by the sky domes. This is what we call direct light. Okay, in the secondary light, it's excuse me. The secondary light would be your bounce light, the lights that bounce and they light up your characters by bouncing on the objects. That also generates grain. But the number one culprit, 80% of the grain, is due to your lights. If the second culprit is our render settings, okay? And under Arnold sampling, this is where you guys are going to be doing most of the work. So this is the number of samplings, okay? But be very careful with this number right here. Let me explain why. These are multipliers. So the AA stands for anti-aliasing. This makes your image sharp, okay? And this helps on the grain too, but about 20%. But this is a global thing. This fixes the sampling throughout the whole camera. On the light, it resamples the light, it resamples the color, the bounce, the shadows, everything, okay? And what this controls is your diffuse, your color, specularity, the shininess. Transmission is opacity and transparency, so a glass. SSS stands for subsurface scattering, things like wax, skin. In volumetric or indirect lighting, it has to do with fogs, okay? So we don't have fog here, so what we can do is we can get rid of this. We don't have subsurface scattering. This is not transparent. Specular, yes, we need a specularity, okay? And transmission also has to do with reflectivity. So if you want your character to be reflected right here, or if you want a reflection of the HDR, the environment on a shiny object, you would have to bring up your transmission, okay? And we're gonna keep these two guys right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the camera anti-aliasing at 3 to show you guys the big difference. The only problem, so here comes to the limitation, ladies and gentlemen, of our Arnold render inside of the viewport. I cannot create snapshots. I cannot record this. I want you guys to be aware that this is 4 seconds. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get out of the Arnold viewport render. We're gonna go here to viewport 2.0. I don't want an interactive rendering in the viewport. I want the interactive rendering in the actual Arnold render. So the Arnold render is found under Arnold render, okay? Also, you guys can use the Arnold tab, and they're right here. So this will do a render. This is going to bring in the render viewer. And what I like about the render viewer, it's exactly like the viewport, but you will notice that here we can have additional options, okay? We can go 1-to-1 so that it zooms in. Under view, we can select specific channels. Under view, the place that you guys are gonna go the most is gonna be right here on the test resolution. Fit to window, it will fit your resolution to this window. And then you guys can click on 1-to-1 so that it fits it. But usually we work at resolution of 100%, okay? Render, so on file, we can save this image. And here we can save what's called a layer EXR. So EXR is the new file format that everybody uses. Think of Photoshop with a PNG with transparency all mixed together, all right? So we're gonna go save image, and we can gonna save EXR if you wanna save this image with a transparency. Transparency means that the sky dome or the physical sky will not render. They'll be black, but when you bring them into Photoshop, you will have a transparency. So you can composite this on backgrounds. Window, this is where you know, for the display, the toolbar icons and all that stuff. So we never hang around here, okay? And view, these are gonna be our layers, enable layers, and then render. We're gonna be here most of the time, okay? Remember, update the full scene. It will update your scene, and then it's gonna start re-rendering. You guys notice that now we went to our resolution, right? Because we told our render settings under comments to render the render cam. And when I updated my scene, look what format I'm working on. You guys see that? All right, fantastic. Okay, The other thing about the viewport that I don't like is when it renders this, it goes past the render settings. It renders everything in the background, so your renders become really, really long, okay? All right. Okay, so render cam, right? And then I'm gonna go to render, update full screen. There it is. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so what other tools do I often use here? Pretty much I leave everything the way it is. If the scene is really heavy, too complicated, I can render a section. It's this little icon right here, and then what you do is you draw, and then all it's gonna do is gonna render what's inside of this cube, okay? So what I can do, and I'm gonna do this as an example, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, here's the other cool part right here. On the bottom right, you have this little picture right here. And when you click on it, it's going to save a snapshot of this render. Okay, this is awesome. All right, and then you guys can type in all the information. This took 6 seconds, right? So you guys can go 00, hours, 00, minutes, 06 seconds, render time. And then this is how you guys start learning how to use this. Okay, I'm gonna hit return. And then what I'll do, I'll write down light sample. Okay, I'm gonna go select my physical sky. All right, and I'm gonna go, so this is where we're gonna add the samples for the lights. We are gonna go to our, let me make this a little bit smaller. Fantastic. We're gonna go to our attribute editor. Remember, you're gonna be working with exposure and the samples. To turn on the transparency, so when you guys have an EXR, the backgrounds of your image do not render, okay, is the only other setting that I go. And that's gonna be under camera, and I'm gonna move this down to 0. That means that I don't wanna render the camera, okay? All right, so these are the two guys that are gonna be working most of the time. So I'm gonna increase the sample. So I've saved this image right here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move the samples up to 4. And now I'm going to hit a render again. And because I rendered this image right here, I'm gonna deselect this. And now look, it's re-rendering the whole thing. And it's gonna do 4 passes of samples. We went through 1, 2, third one, and then the fourth one, and then voila, okay? This took 9 seconds. We went from 6 seconds to 9 seconds, but look at the quality. Now, again, you can only increase the samples of the lights up to a point. I never go past 8 because it takes too long, okay? So I'm gonna bring up to 6. So this is the information for this guy, okay? So the samples were 1. So I'm gonna go samples 1, okay? And then I'm gonna go camera, anti-alias, and those were set to the default, which is 3. Okay, so I have this image render. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna create a snapshot. And for this one, I'm gonna go to this one. I'm gonna, oops, my comments did not save. Oh, that sucks. What was that? Oh, I put the settings wrong. So I'm gonna copy these guys. So the light samples were 6, and my camera were 3. Okay, so I'm gonna go right here and I'm gonna paste this, and then light samples were 1, camera 3 with 3. Perfect. Okay, fantastic. Okay, and we're gonna do 1/3 render, where we're gonna go to our render settings, Arnold render, and here I'm gonna increase it to 4. Be careful with this one because this is going to be a multiply of itself. 4 times 4 is 16 samples. Diffuse, okay, is 16. It's 4 times 16, 64, and specular is also 64. So these guys are calculated by selecting the multiplier of 4, which is 16, and then you multiply it times the multiplier of 2, which is 4. 4 times 16 is 64. So you have to be very, very careful how to increase this. So as you guys can see right here, this one is done. I'm not sure if it did it or not. So I'm gonna go to update full scene, and it's gonna do a quick render, right? Because usually you see the button either red or with the play button, and I didn't see it, it was grayed out. And I know this one was 15 seconds. This should be way longer. And you guys can see now the quality is amazing. That's why I like working with the Sky Dome and the one with the HDR, which we're going to do right now next. Okay. Still rendering, and it's because this bad Oscar is pretty high. 25 seconds. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll create a snapshot. All right, with this guy selected, I'm going to paste these guys right here. So render time, this was 25. I have to change the other one. I know this one was 15. Light samples are 6, and the AA was 4. Okay, I like to write these guys, so I create my own recipes. Okay, and now this guy right here was 15 seconds. And I know that this guy right here was 6 seconds. 6, 15 seconds, and you guys can see the quality. 6, 15 seconds, 25, okay? Fantastic. How do we turn the light? It's very, very easy. With the sky dome selected, right? And this is where the IPR is gonna come in handy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go to update the full scene, and then I'm gonna go to run IPR. So the IPR right now is running. So if I go here and I type in samples 8, you're gonna notice that the rendering starts all over again, okay? So we're gonna leave this one at 8, and let's go ahead, select our sky dome shape, and to go to the actual sky dome, right, we are gonna go to the color, click right here, and this is your sky dome, okay? So we're gonna be working with elevation, and we're gonna work with our azimuth, okay? So this is how you're going to control your shadow. So if I type in 45 for my azimuth, what it's doing is that it's rotating the globe, okay? So if I type in 0, right, our shadow's over here. If I type in 180, the shadow is over here. So we're rotating the globe, okay? So I'm going to go back to what we had 90, I believe, okay? So let's go to 90. Okay. And there you have it, okay? The other thing that we remember, this is the sky dome right here, okay? The elevation, the higher you move your sky dome, right? So let's go to 90, right? We're gonna get, the sun is gonna go on the top. So this is noon, okay? If you guys go to 0, this is night. If we go to 25, right? Early morning. Okay, so you're lifting the sky dome, okay? This will be a morning shot walking on the beach, right? It's not wearing a mask. That's a big no-no. Okay, and then 45 degrees. This is like 3 o'clock. Okay, no, wait. So 6, the sun is on the ground, and then at 180, the sun is up. So 45 degrees would be, my God, 6 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, right? Think of a clock. Okay. All right. So yeah, so this is how you do that. And then the azimuth rotates it. Okay. Intensity, you never, don't worry about this. Just leave it the way it is. This is all done automatically. When you deselect the sun disappears. This is how we use this for night. Okay. All right. So that is a very basic usage of our sky dome. Okay. If you guys select the sky dome and then you go back to the shape, remember, not the color of the shape, but the shape. Another thing that we can do, which I like doing, is I like to bring up my light to like a 50% gray. So I'm going to click on the color swatch, and I'm going to select a 50% gray right here, type in 5. And I like to sometimes give it a bluish tint just to add some color, okay? But lower your shadow, ladies and gentlemen, even something like a 35. Don't have the shadow steal the show, okay? And that's pretty much how you guys do, that's pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, how you use the sky dome. It's very, very, very easy, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm going to create the dome light. And the difference, the dome light is another sky dome, but the difference is that instead of having a procedural, remember procedural means mathematically created, right? So there's a formula that creates this light information. Instead of using a procedural light, like the Sky Dome, we're going to use an image, an HDRI, a high dynamic range image. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the chat room. There are no questions. If I go to participants, all right, nobody's got their hands raised. All right, I tend not to look at the participant, ladies and gentlemen, because I know that you guys will use the mic to ask a question. And the chat is pretty much, the last person talking was Noah. Fantastic. Okay. All right, so here we go. Let's create a Sky Dome. Before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about HDR lights, where to get them, okay? So, so I think I changed the samples to 8. What was this one right here? Samples were 6. Okay, so I'm going to change this one. Let me put samples of 8. No, you know what? We don't need that. It looks good, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do, oh, I think, yeah, this one right here had the light. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to my render settings, and this is, I'm going to increase this to 4 just to show you guys a really super high quality. And then under comments for the Sky Dome, what I did in my attributes is I tweaked the shadow, okay? And so let's go right here. Damn it, I didn't save it. Okay, so it's selecting these guys. I don't know how to deselect these guys. Okay, let's see, because I tweaked the anti-alias, I'm gonna do another render, okay? So let's go to render, update the full scene, okay? And let's see, it looks way better with the light shadow. It doesn't steal away from my walk cycle, all right? And it's gonna take a little bit longer because I increased the samples from 6 to 8, okay? And then if you guys go to the render settings under Arnold, we went up to 6. So this is, remember, this is 36, but the samples for the color are up to 144. This is gonna get rid of grain completely, okay? Completely. All right, and I'm gonna save it. This will take close over a minute, I think. Okay, let's just wait a second so you guys can see. All right, I'm gonna quickly stop the sharing, and I wanna show you guys a website of where you guys are gonna go for your free HDR eyes, okay? So give me 1 second before I share the screen. I need to go to education, 3D lighting and texturing, 3D lighting and texturing, Frank. And you guys are gonna go to HDRI Heaven. Let's share the screen. Share screen. All right, and this is where I go to get my HDR eyes, okay? So feel free, guys, to donate some money if you guys want to. When I found this website, I was able to donate a big chunk of money from our Bursar account. Since our students always borrow the free HDRs, I felt that it'd be awesome. But if you guys have, you know, a couple of $1,000, it'd be appreciated if you guys give it to them. No, if you guys want to donate, you guys know how to do it. All right, so let's go to our HDR eyes. What I love about these HDR eyes is their organization, okay? So if I select, for example, an outdoor, you will notice that we have HDR eyes are gonna give us extreme shadows, and HDR eyes are gonna give us soft shadows, okay? This is a really good one right here. I'm gonna show you guys how to download and what to download. So I'm gonna find one that gives me a bright light, but I don't want a harsh shadow, okay? This is a little bit too harsh. This is nice, this is right here. If you guys want to do interiors, then you go to interiors, and then it's broken down with abandoned, couch, fluorescent lighting. Okay, so you guys can match it to whatever settings you guys have, okay? I'm gonna go to the photo studio right here. I'm gonna click on it, and notice that this is what the image looks like. So there are different types of formats. Very important to know. The standard is what you guys looking at right now, which is called the latitude. So if I go back to Maya, I'll show you guys where we put that in, that input, okay? Then there's another one, which is a sphere, okay? Think of this image split into 280-degree spheres stitched together. That's called a sphere. And then the other format is a cross, okay? Think of a cube. The environment is a cube, top, bottom, left, right, front, and back. And then you take that cube and you flatten it, and that is called the cross, okay? this is what it looks like, and this is where you guys are going to go download them. So I recommend that you guys work with 4K, all right? And don't get anything higher because you're going to choke Maya, but you guys want to find this one. So I'm going to download the 4K HDR, and I'm going to save it, okay? And I'm going to put this in my source images. All right, so I'm going to remember hdriheaven.com. I'm going to stop the sharing. Let me quickly move that image from my downloads, and I'm going to put this in my downloads, date. There it is, Photo Studio 4K. All I'm doing, guys, is I'm dragging it to my project, my walk cycle project, and I'm going to put that inside of my source images. Okay, so let me put this right here, Dart 150, Frank. And let's put this inside of the walk cycle project. And I'm going to move this inside of my source images. Fantastic. Okay, let's go back into Maya. I'm going to go share screen. Let's go back into Maya right here. Let's go to share. And I'm going to, in the chat room, if you guys can use your mic, can you guys see the Arnold render viewer? Can you guys see this window right here?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, I'm going to take a snapshot right here. This guy took 1 minute, 21 seconds. So here I'm going to go render time 1 minute, 21 seconds. That's not bad. But remember, guys, if our walk cycle is 24 frames, it'll be over half an hour rendering, okay? And then the light samples were 8, and my camera was 6. 6 is too excessive, just FYI, okay? But you guys can see now the quality. Look at this one. Look at this one, right here. You guys see the difference between this one and this one? Big difference. And then here, right? We won't be able to see this unless we go into Photoshop, and then from here to here, okay? This got really light, but look at the difference, guys, because I have, I want you guys to look at the reflectivity. You guys see that? There's more information, I get more reflectivity, okay? The higher the quality. The background is softer and everything. Okay, so I'm going to collapse this real quick. And we're going to create a dome light. So we're going to go to Arnold. Let me make sure. I know I did. I just want to make triple sure of the sync. Okay, perfect. And I have the sky dome. Fantastic. Okay, let me close the sync so you guys can see the background. And we're going to go to Arnold. We're going to go to our lights, and we're going to select the sky dome. Notice, ladies and gentlemen, that the sky dome and the they're identical. So I'm going to name this one Dome Light. Okay, and the other one is called Sky Dome Light. Okay, perfect. I'm going to put this on a layer, and this is going to be called our Dome Light. That term comes from Mental Ray, and I'm going to make this guy yellow, okay? And that way I can hide the dome light. So when I, let's go ahead and bring up our, this time we're going to use the render bucket, okay? And I'm going to go back to our, where did you go? Here. And let's go ahead and let's go to our render. Stop it, dome dock. Damn thing. Here you go. Render, and let's go ahead and update our full scene. So now it's reloading the whole thing. And you guys will see that our HDR image right here, our dome light, it's emitting some light, but nothing to write home about. We need to bring in an image. This is like a regular sky dome, but as you guys can see in the reflection, it's white. The dark part is the render bucket, okay? So let's go ahead and bring in an image. I'm gonna move this guy down, and I'm gonna select the dome light, right? And I'm going to go to the attribute editor. And in the attribute editor, you'll notice that the dome light is white. What we want to do is we want to bring in an image. And we're going to go to our node editor right here. Our create render node. And we're going to get the create render node window. And we're going to bring in a file. Perfect. Just like bringing your textures into your shaders, guys. Nothing very complicated at all. remember what I told you guys about the file node. It wants to blur everything, right? It's a nice, abuelita that wants to feed you all the time. Grandma already ate. Okay, I'll make you some soup. Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right, so we're going to turn off the filter type, okay? And then what we're going to do, we're going to click right here because we set our project. It should take us into our source images. So click right here. Why is that not clicking? Click right here. Reload. Click right here. I'm going to save this. I have a bad feeling. All right. So let's go to save, continue. All right, and I'm going to, that's weird. It's not allowing me to do that. I wonder why. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here. Okay. All right, so this is a bad omen. So I'm going to quickly save. I'm going to quit Maya and relaunch it. So the sharing is going to stop. Perfect. Okay. And I'm going to relaunch Maya again. I will edit all of this before I send you guys the movie. So it looks like my computer was working fine and I knew exactly what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. How do I hate computers? Hit OK. Wait until it does its thing. All right. You did not lose those snapshots. I will show you guys where the snapshots go to when we create a render. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File. Let's go ahead and set our project. And walk cycle, set the project. And let's go to File. File, open. I'm going to make sure that I share this with you guys. Give me 1 second. Don't save the scene. So I'm going to go to Zoom and I'm going to go to share screen and select Maya so you guys can see what's going on. And there we are. Okay. So I'm going to collapse this real quick. Dome light. Let's go to our color. Let's go right here. Filter off. Let's go right here. Now you're working, you son of a. Okay. So what do we call this guy right here? This was, let me get rid of. It wasn't Photoshop. I want you guys to observe something. These are the different HDRIs that I've used. Okay. And when you guys load this into Arnold, Arnold is going to create a version of the HDR called a text file. Okay, so what is a text file? A text file is your HDR image with different sizes. Okay, so this HDR image, it's 4K, so it's almost 3,800 pixels in width. And then it creates different sizes, half size, and then a quarter size, and 1/8 size. And that is so that when you zoom in and zoom out, you don't render with the entire HDR. And it switches the sizes in real time. It's called a text file, okay? Hang on, guys. I'm going to go to my thing right here. I'm in the walk cycle, source image. That is so bizarre. Let me go back real quick to, what did I download? Photo Studio Skull. And I don't see it. That is really weird. Did I put it into my 3D Paint texture? Wow. Okay, not a big deal. I'm gonna resave it. Maybe deleted it. That's why Maya crashed. Who knows? I don't care. I'm gonna go to my downloads, Photo Studio, and I'm gonna move this guy down in here. Put it to my source images. There it is, Photo Studio. Okay, so I'm gonna hit cancel. And just to make sure, I'm gonna click on this again. And Photo Studio. You guys see that all I have is a Photo Studio 01 4K.HDR. I don't have the texture. So I'm gonna click on this. I'm gonna go to open. All right. there was some hesitation there. Arnold was doing something. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. If I go to my source images, I don't have it yet. As soon as I save the file, it will turn this into a .tx background. Okay, so let's give it a try. Let's do a render. I'm gonna move the guy right here. So let's go to our Arnold. Let's go to our render right here. I closed it. All right. There we go. And we have some lighting, okay? I'm using the really high settings for the camera anti-alias. Remember, the camera anti-alias is set to 6. So this guy right here is gonna go a little bit slow than usual. Okay, and you guys are gonna notice that it's very grainy, super grainy from the beginning. And remember, 80 to 90%, and the render is done, 26 seconds. 80 to 90% of the grain comes from your direct lighting. So let's select our dome light. In the attribute editor, you will notice that samples, I have 1, okay? So let's go ahead and move the group chat. I'm going to do a snapshot, okay? And this guy right here, I can write the settings if I want, okay? So all I'm gonna write down is the information that I was doing before. Okay, so if I go to our render settings and I go to Arnold, remember guys, I started with 6, okay? This may be a little bit too high. HDR lighting tends to be better than skylight. So I'm gonna go down to 4. All right, this is a recipe. And for my samples, I'm gonna go to 6. And let's go ahead and re-render this. I saved this snapshot right here. This was 26 seconds. This one is gonna go, you guys will notice because I reduced the general sampling of the camera to create really good anti-alias, okay? I reduced it from 6 to 4, but I increased my samples for the direct light from 1 to 6. So I gave out a little bit on one side, but then I gained time from the lighting, okay, from the samples. It's all about the samples. The more samples you have, the higher the quality. And this took 30 seconds, right? But if you guys see the difference between this and this is night and day, okay? All right, and this one looks pretty good. Let's go to our, let's bring this guy up to 8. We'll do another render because I hit enter. The IPR is engaged, so it's re-rendering. So I'm adding 2 more sampling passes, okay? So this will go closer to, this one was what, 30 seconds. It will be closer to a minute, I believe. All right, and we'll see what it looks like. I have not tweaked the exposure, okay? So if you guys, if I go back to right here, right, and let me stop sharing, and I'm going to share this guy right here. All right, if you guys look at the lighting right here, compared to the one that we have, it's not bright enough. And that's because my exposure in my HDR is set to 0, okay? So pay attention to this lighting right here, okay? Think of this as our ball. Stop sharing, let's go back to Maya. And you will notice that, you know, I can increase exposure, okay? So this was 30 seconds, so I'm gonna go to exposure and I'm gonna type in 1, and it's gonna do a brand new render. But something's going on. This should have been brighter, so I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna go to render, update full screen. There we go, now we're cooking, okay? Now it looks like our lighting. The shadows look the same. Excellent, right? The render bucket could go away further. All right, so I don't have that sharp angle right here. Some people take to make, they create a bowl, like a bowl where you put a fruit bowl or a cereal bowl, right? Where the curvature begins from the middle, right? So you don't see that corner where the arrow is right here, okay, right above the head. Okay, but for what we need, this is perfect, okay? I just wanna show you guys how this works. All right, so this will be a few more seconds. We're at 80%. You guys can see this at the bottom. So very easy to set up, Okay, this took 44 seconds. So if I do 24 frame animation, right? Look at the difference between this and this, okay? Beautiful lighting. I love HDR eyes. They create this beautiful lighting. Okay, so this is pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, how you set up a lighting using a physical sky or a physical dome light, a sky dome light, and a dome light using an HDRI image. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm going to set a render of our animation, okay? We're gonna animate this walk cycle in place. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the very beginning. And to do that, we have to go to our render settings, okay? And Arnold works differently than the other render engines. The other render engines take advantage of the render settings, the common settings, right? Where we go to the movies and all that jazz. But what I'm gonna do, so because I was using the Arnold render engine, it changed my image format to .exr, okay? I'm gonna switch to PNG, show you guys. And for the frame range, what I wanna do, remember to bring up your frame range, you have to force it by selecting image format, select QuickTime. But because I use your Arnold render, it didn't do that, okay? So just select QuickTime, right? And then this will pop up. So we wanna go from frame 1 to frame 24, all right? So these are our settings right here. We know what the images are gonna look like. Our images are gonna look like our renders, okay? And you wanna select the camera, render cam. Alpha channel, if you see the background, remember, same thing for the sky domes, ladies and gentlemen. If I go to the dome light, and let's say that I had used a square for my ground, and I could see the dome light, to prevent the dome light from showing up, you go to the attribute editor, visibility camera, turn down to 0, all right? But since we don't see it because of this guy right here, not a big deal. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna do a quick test. I'm gonna bring in my sync, okay? And I'm gonna turn off my dome light, and I'm gonna do a quick render. See what it looks like. Ooh, nothing's happening. Render, update full scene, and that should take care of it. Theoretically, did I turn the light off? I did. There's no lights. Okay, not a big deal. And we render in 6 seconds. Okay, the 6 seconds are due to the camera anti-aliasing. Let's bring up the dome light, and now that should do the trick. So render, update the full scene. That should take care of it. Okay, so this is our sync. All right. Oh, how do you rotate the images? I forgot to mention that. I'm gonna stop my render. Actually, let's go to IPR. Let's select our dome light. Let's go to our attribute editor. And to move this guy around, remember, when you guys go to color right here, this is an HDR. So we're not going to the actual dome. Okay, this one is actually easier. The dome light, you're gonna select it right here. Okay, you're gonna go to your channel box, and you're just gonna rotate on the Y. So if I type in 180, hit enter, notice that the dome with the image has rotated, okay? So I could go 240, right? Or I can go 45 degrees, right? 90 degrees. And I think we were set to 0, okay? That's how you move your dome sky, okay? All right, so I'm going to do this right here. To save time, you guys are gonna have to trust me. I'm going to stop this right here, and I'm going to close this right here. Okay, so to render a Arnold, using Arnold, right? First make sure that under render settings, we have Arnold. Under our common settings, we have the render cam selected. We have our HDR format. When it came to rendering, I would go to HD 1080 to have higher quality. But remember, guys, that's going to take a longer time. If you guys want to know how long it takes, go to HD 1080. Go ahead and run a render, right? And then once this scene right here is rendered, okay, let's go to 1. So let's go to render. View, test settings. Let's go to fit window size. It's going to re-render this guy, but I did something major, so I have to go update full scene. Perfect, okay? So what you do is you figure out how long does it take to render one image, okay? And then you multiply that times 24, and that's how you can calculate your rendering. It's that easy, okay? Remember, I went from HD 540, which is 960 pixels in width by 540 pixels in height, and that took 40 seconds, I believe. I didn't write it down. You guys see the importance of writing your steps down? Anyways, so to HD, we're 50%. We're getting there. All right, give it a second. All right, we're almost done. Looks like we're going near a 1 minute. No need to have a stopwatch. Just let the thing do its thing. This render in another computer, on my laptop, it would take longer, right? It takes advantage of your CPU. Okay, so we have a render of 1 minute in 3 seconds. So all you have to do is multiply this by 24. So it'll be 24 minutes, 24 times 6, 72. So it will be 25 minutes in 12 seconds. Cool. So how do we render the animation? Very easy. I'm going to collapse this right here. And we're going to go to the rendering menu set. So we usually work in modeling. We're going to go to rendering. And under the render menu, right, we are going to have our render sequence. Okay. Batch render means that you're going to send it out and it's going to render at a specific time, but we want to use render sequence. We're going to go to the options. So current camera, render cam, all render enable layers. Because we haven't created any layers, you just leave this one unchecked. You can select specific layers, and then it's going to ask you to render in a specific place, okay? So because we're doing an image sequence, I like to select this. I'm going to go to my movies, right? I'm going to create a new folder, okay? And I'm going to call this one walk cycle render sequence 1, okay? And I'm going to select this directory here. I'm going to go select, right? And what else can we learn from our render settings? So the frame padding is just going to be the name, the extension, and then the number. Because we have 24 frames, we're going to need a padding of 2, okay? And you guys can see right here on the top that the path is going to be right here. The file name is going to be called Biped Walk Cycle, which is the name of our scene number 3. Animation start. This is the name of your scene, right? .png.1. Okay. I want to put the number in front of the PNG. So I'm going to go right here under frame animation extension, and I'm going to go to name _ number and then the extension. Okay. If you try to open a PNG that is called blah, 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 and then PNG and then the name after that, it will not work, okay? You're gonna have to change all those names. So that's what you want, name _ so you can have a space between the numbers. Extension, we're going to 24 frames, so all I need is a frame padding of 2. The default is 4, and you would have 0024, all right? And then dot extension, okay? And starts at frame 1, ends at frame 24. I don't want, remember, ladies and gentlemen, you do not want to render frame 25 because then you're going to have a repeating frame, right? And add to render view, and then we're going to go to, if you click on add to render view, you guys will see what happens. So we're going to go to render sequence, okay? And the render view is going to pop up, and it's going to render every single image, one image at a time. So this is the Arnold render view, and it's going to do the rendering. And those are our render buckets. So rendering an image is different because you see the grain. The render bucket, it has to do with rendering animation. And what it does one square, those little squares are called buckets, all right? And by default, the render bucket size is 32 pixels by 32 pixels. You can increase it, but it's something that I'll be talking on the video when it comes to settings. It has to do with the threads in your computer. So the smaller the render, and don't go anything smaller than 32. So you go either 32 or 64. If you do not have too many cores in your computer, leave it to 64. If you guys have a lot of cores, I have 24 cores on this computer. The smaller the render, what it does is once a cube is done, it sends another cube to another one of the cores. So there are 24 cores rendering each square, okay? And then what's going to happen is that once it's done rendering this cube, right? This frame, it's going to jump to frame number 2, and then 3, 4, 5, all the way to 24. This may take a while, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the meeting so I can render this video and send it to you guys right away. While this is rendering right here, I'm going to talk real quick about, again, what you guys need for the funnel. I'm extending the funnel until, give me 1 second, guys. I need to see, I think it's the 29th. I just want to make triple sure. Okay, until next Thursday, the 28th, May 28th. You guys have until May 28th, ladies and gentlemen, to finish your animation, okay? And I want you guys to give me a render of your walk cycle, okay? You have your character moving, all right, in place, and then just do a render, 24 frames, no more than 24 frames, all right, okay, guys? Don't spend more than half an hour rendering. So do your walk cycle, finish your walk cycle. Once you guys are done with your walk cycle, okay, I want you guys to either select the physical sky or my favorite, the dome lighting. Download a cool HDR light. Careful with the HDR lights, the HDR files. They're very addictive, like Photoshop brushes. You start with 1, okay? 6 months later, you have 2 terabytes worth of Photoshop brushes, and you wonder why your computer's not working, okay? I have a vast collection of HDRs, which is really dumb because they're free on the internet now, okay? I do have a lot that I took on my own. I have most of the college photograph in HDR, but those ones are not finished. I have to convert them. I used to use, I did not show you guys where that goes. Okay, so now we're going into frame 2, okay? But when it comes to, I can go right here, select my dome light. I'm afraid that if I do that, it's gonna crash it. Okay, yeah. When you're rendering the image sequence, there's nothing you can do. So when you guys click on the dome light and you guys go to the attribute editor, below the samples is gonna ask you, when you guys bring in the image, Arnold does it automatically. Sometimes your image doesn't load correctly and you're like, what the hell is going on, right? And it's because it thinks that it's not a panoramic HDR. It thinks that it's a cross or a globe. Okay, so you have to make sure that you guys set it correctly. But I have never had a problem with Arnold not knowing what type of format my HDR eyes are. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the participant window. And are there any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Rodrigo's no, Peter no, Lucas no. All right, fantastic. So no question. Yes.
Question.
Yes,
so,
Sarah.
Are we just turning in the rendered movies, or are we also turning in our scenes too?
Yeah, a good question, Sarah. I want you guys to turn in your projects, not the scenes, but the entire project. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's because in case there's something weird, I want to be able to fix your walk cycle and then attach an annotation to show you guys what I did to fix it.
Okay, so just the project files then?
No, so the project, so the entire Maya project for your bouncing ball, and you guys should have your video files in your source images, right, for the bouncing balls. And then for the walk cycle in the entire project, so that in your source image, I can see your the source image that you guys uploaded for to pose your character. Okay, and then once you guys do the rendering, the image sequence will be in your movies or whatever you guys put it, and I'll be able to take a look at it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So the two projects, the bouncing ball projects, and a minimum of I remember I required a minimum of 2 bouncing balls. Okay, so the soccer ball and another a ball of your choice. If you guys have more, fantastic. And then the second project that you guys are going to upload is going to be this walk cycle, okay, with a render included. The only thing that I did not show you guys is how to create a turntable based on this walk cycle, okay? But I'm doing a video for my intro Maya class on how to do a turntable. So I will email you guys the link to the turntable, how to create a turntable in Maya. It's extremely, extremely easy to do. Okay, it takes 5 seconds. All right, but because I don't want to stop the render and I want to stop the class so I can send you guys this link, I'll send you guys the link of the video once it's uploaded. So I'm almost done with frame number 2, and we're going to jump to frame number 3. And in half an hour from now, what I'll do, I'll send you guys, I'll send you guys a link. I'll upload this video into YouTube so you guys can see it. Cool? All right. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Remember, if you guys have reference sheets missing, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a screen grab of the reference sheets that I had up to week 7, which was before we went into quarantine. Okay? If you guys have missing reference sheets, do those. Upload the reference sheets inside of your student folder. Remember, I created 16 weeks of reference sheets. Disregard week 16. We didn't do reference sheets for week 16. Noah, you have a question?
Yeah. Are we rendering the walk cycle and submitting that with the project, or just the project?
So when you render this, right, your image sequence in your movie will be inside of your movies folder of your project. So if you upload the entire project, I will see everything. I will see your Maya files, I will see your source images, and I will see your movies. You don't have to submit a movie. Once you render this movie is going to be an image sequence that's going to be found in your, whatever you guys put it. Make sense?
So just render it and just leave it there? So
yeah, just leave it there. Separately? If you guys want to create a movie for me in QuickTime or any other programs, awesome. But you guys don't have to do it. I just want to see the image sequence. Cool? Awesome. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? All right. Okay, so we had a very interesting semester, you guys would agree? All right, it's been interesting to say the least, okay? As soon as I'm done with the meeting, I'm going to render the movie, put it on YouTube, and send you guys a link. And I will write down exactly what I need you guys to do. I'm going to upload my 2 projects into my Google Drive so you guys can see what I did. All right. It's been a fun semester. Again, a weird and interesting semester. What I'm going to do during the summer break, I'm going to do a couple of more exercises and more videos for this class. I always felt this class did not have enough videos. So you guys are going to get a link to the new UV editor series, how to do UVs. I'm going to do UVs on the neon signs that I use for the Intro Maya class. More specifically for this class, what I show you guys today, I'm going to do videos on Arnold, how to create a basic sky dome, a basic dome light, and then I'm going to do a video on how to go over the a 3-point lighting system for Brian's students, so that and for the other intermediate Maya classes, so people know how to do a very simple 3-point light setup in Arnold. And I want to do one on how to use a toon shader, okay? Because a lot of people have asked me to show them how to use a toon shader. And the toon shader, okay, so these guys are taking 2 minutes and 11 seconds for some reason. So this is going to be 24 minutes times 2. It's going to be a long time. Okay, it's going to be close to an hour render because I'm in frame 4. And so I'll do a video on how to use the Arnold shader so that you guys can either do buildings or vehicles, tune shade them so that you guys can draw on top of them for those of you guys who are character designers. And then if you guys want to create a turntable that goes from a shaded texture turn to a neutral gray Lambert 1 shader to the neutral gray with the wireframe, I'm going to do a video on how to do that, okay? So now that we're done rendering our image sequence from Arnold, we're going to put it together with QuickTime Pro. We can also do that in Photoshop. And I will put a link to a video tutorial that we have in our YouTube channel on how to assemble a movie based on an image sequence in Photoshop. So in this case, I'm going to use QuickTime Pro. I'm going to go to QuickTime Pro, and I'm going to go to Open File. I'm going to go to File, Open Image Sequence. I'm going to find where the image sequence was rendered. So I'm going to select my project. I'm going to go to my Movies folder. And to bring in an image sequence into QuickTime, you're going to select the first image of the image sequence, and then QuickTime is going to bring in the rest. You can see the padding right here, how we selected padding of 2 in the render. So I'm going to click on Open, and it's going to ask me how many frames per second. We're going to select 24 frames per second. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to shrink this a little bit, and let's hit play. These are 24 frames. Again, Control L on a PC or Command L on a Mac so that we can create a loop.